What's going on, guys? It's Fight Season MMA, and today I want to make a video highlighting why I believe Dricus Du Plessis will actually not lose inside that UFC middleweight division. Dricus Du Plessis is one of the most well-rounded fighters inside the UFC. He's backed by a great grappling game and a great wrestling game that he's been working on for his entire life, but now he's been working on his striking department and his cardio and all the different aspects of his UFC, making him an incredibly well-rounded fighter, and that truly, I believe, is going to be something that truly allows him to be able to beat a lot of these individuals inside the middleweight division. I want to talk about some fights that he's possibly going to have with some people, why I do think that Dricus Du Plessis is going to be able to beat a lot of these individuals inside the middleweight division, and why I believe Dricus Du Plessis has a chance to reign for a very long time within the middleweight division. If you guys enjoy the UFC content, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. This is the best way to help the channel grow, and while you're down there, please turn on the post notifications just so you guys are always notified when UFC content releases. But without further ado, let's jump right into the video talking why I believe Dricus Du Plessis will reign for the middleweight title for a very long time. So I just want to kind of talk about today why I believe Dricus Du Plessis has all the essential elements and skills to be able to keep that middleweight title for a very long time, and why no one in the middleweight division is going to be able to beat him in the near future. So let's start with someone like Sean Strickland, who's going to get the title shot next. I made a video recently talking about that Sean Strickland and Dricus Du Plessis was signed, and yes, there has been a lot of different reports and coming from Strickland himself saying that this fight is signed between the two individuals and that they're just coming up to find a date to actually have the fight being hosted. So Dricus Du Plessis versus Sean Strickland, how do I think it goes down? I think that this is one of Dricus's hardest fights inside the UFC middleweight division. Sean Strickland's an opponent who's going to really be able to push Dricus Du Plessis back on his feet. Sean Strickland always goes forward and is going to make him fight on his back foot, but I do think that Dricus Du Plessis being in there is going to have a lot better of a time with those grappling, that takedowns. Now, the only thing that I could 100% see Sean Strickland doing to win this fight was being able to exploit and look back at previous film to see the different patterns coming from Dricus Du Plessis in that standpoint. Another situation in the UFC that has to relate to this currently is Alex Pereira fighting Jiri Prochazka the first time and second time. In this first fight, Alex Pereira had some trouble with Jiri Prochazka due to all the unorthodox strategies and everything coming like that, but in the second fight, Alex Pereira took it very, very amazingly to knock Jiri out with a left hook pretty much in the end of the first round, got saved by the bell, and then that switch left high kick right to the dome was able to knock Jiri out cold. But that was just something that Alex Pereira was able to study off and learn off of that awkward style that Jiri Prochazka has, and that's something Sean Strickland could use to be able to beat Dricus Du Plessis because that style is so awkward in that standpoint. But truly, I do think that Dricus Du Plessis has the skill, he has the IQ, and he has the skills to be able to go in there and back himself to ultimately beat someone like Sean Strickland in a fight. Now, how do I think a fight with Robert Whittaker would go? I do think that Dricus Du Plessis would end up beating Robert Whittaker. I think that he's too well-rounded. I think he has too many aspects that are going to be able to go out there and truly allow him to win inside the UFC octagon. I think Dricus is a lot bigger than Whittaker. I think he's going to have better grappling than Whittaker, and I think that he's going to be able to put some power upon Whittaker too. Even though he's not the most technical striker, he definitely is one of the best, one of the hardest hitters in the 185-pound division. Dricus Du Plessis is actually a really underrated striker, not for that technique that he possesses, but for that power. He was wobbling Israel Adesanya with every single shot that he had, which was something that a lot of people didn't expect. He was able to go out there and outstrike Israel Adesanya due to those weird angles he was taking, and a lot of the different things that Adesanya couldn't suspect prior to the fight occurring. So I do think that he would beat Robert Whittaker. Israel Adesanya, that fight just happened. It wouldn't happen again, but I do believe that he would beat someone like Israel Adesanya yet again. Now, someone like Nassourdine Imavov, Brandon Allen, I don't think would really be able to do anything against Dricus Du Plessis. I think Dricus Du Plessis is just too good of a fighter. I think Imavov has a better chance than Allen, considering that Allen is just a pure forward grappler. His striking isn't that great, but Imavov is a great striker who has some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and some Sambo with him, which he could give some Dricus Du Plessis some hard troubles, but I don't think it'd be any different than someone like Sean Strickland or Robert Whittaker. So I do think that Strickland's still the hardest fight. I think that Robert Whittaker would be a very, very, very close second, and then Imavov would be a step down from those two, and Brendan Allen would be another step down from Imavov. I do think that someone like Khamzat Chimaev wouldn't be able to take Dricus down and be able to ragdoll him in the first round, which is something that Khamzat Chimaev would really need to be able to do in order to beat someone like Dricus Du Plessis. Dricus has such an amazing, uncanny ability to be able to stay on his feet and to be able to stuff the takedown. Dricus Du Plessis will not get taken down by anyone he fights, especially someone like Khamzat Chimaev who's going to go, wild in there. Dricus is going to study his tendencies. He's going to use that IQ and that amazing coaching staff he has in South Africa to really go down there and break down Khamzat Chimaev, going in there and wanting to bum rush him as soon as the fight starts. Dricus is always so keen and always so just mentally aware of what all of his opponents do. Robert Whittaker fight, he was able to study Jared Cannonier's jab going down the pipe to be able to understand how to beat Robert Whittaker. His Sean Strickland fight, he looked at some other fights that he had, that Jared Cannonier fight. He looked at some other fights of what Sean Strickland was doing, which was he was able to use to ultimately dispose of Sean Strickland at UFC 297. Now this fight is going to come back up, and he's going to be able to use that first fight that he has against Strickland to further ultimately build on that thing I had, but I don't think that Dricus Du Plessis would lose to someone like Strickland. I think the only person that he could possibly lose to in the UFC right now would be someone like an upcoming prospect like Bo Nickel. Now, Bo Nickel is super far out of fighting Dricus Du Plessis. His fight just got announced with Paul Craig at UFC 309, which is a very good step up in competition for someone like Nickel. But truly, that isn't a title contender, a title challenger, anyone like the level of a Robert Whittaker, Sean Strickland, Jared Cannonier, for someone like Bo Nickel. Now, Nickel, I do think, has a great wrestling style. He's going to be able to strike with someone like Dricus Du Plessis. He hits like an absolute truck, but he's not on that level like those other fighters who are actually tested inside the UFC. Dricus Du Plessis is going to have all the ability to reign for the longest time inside the middleweight division. He's going to be able to beat a lot of these guys due to that unorthodox style and having such a heavy wrestling background. Dricus Du Plessis also hitting like an absolute truck is going to only aid him in the striking department, considering he comes from such weird angles. That Adesanya fight was such a prominent figure to really highlight Dricus Du Plessis' strength inside the UFC octagon. Robert Whittaker also talked about it, considering that he got TKO'd by Dricus Du Plessis, and a lot of other fighters inside the UFC who have fought Dricus really don't understand the power until they actually get inside that octagon with him. Dricus Du Plessis right now is one of the most well-rounded champions inside the UFC, and that is what's going to carry his legacy within that middleweight division. Being such a good grappler and wrestler while having the duality of being a very powerful striker on the feet is only going to aid him in having a very long championship run. I do think that Dricus Du Plessis is one of the most well-rounded fighters in right now. He might not be the most technical striker in the UFC, but he definitely has the power to be able to compete in that standpoint. Dricus Du Plessis, in my opinion, will be an amazing middleweight for many years to come. There is no threat, in my opinion, currently to beat him in the middleweight division. I have Dricus Du Plessis beating almost every single middleweight currently in the UFC. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fight Season MMA, and please let me know what you think down below in the comment section, whether you think Dricus Du Plessis would actually have a chance to lose against someone like Sean Strickland, Robert Whittaker, Nasruddin Imavov, Brandon Allen, Khamzat Chimaev inside the UFC octagon. As I've said, Dricus Du Plessis, in my opinion, is way too well-rounded to get outclassed by someone like Robert Whittaker, Sean Strickland. Now, I could 100% see him losing to some of those fighters, but truly, I think Dricus Du Plessis is that good, that battle-tested, and has such a good team and high IQ that I think he would have the mental fortitude and just have the knowledge in order to beat a lot of these different fighters. Dricus Du Plessis, honestly, is such an amazing fighter inside the UFC that it really baffles me of how well he is doing with the lack of striking ability. But that is just a testament to how good Dricus is at problem solving on the fly inside the UFC octagon, and of how he can be able to manipulate rounds to eke out a decision win over some of the hardest and best fighters inside the UFC in that middleweight division. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fight Season MMA. If you guys please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you guys enjoyed the UFC content, and while you're down there, please turn on the post notifications just so you guys are always notified when UFC content releases. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon with more UFC content and news.